Ken Smith is the festive voice behind the North Pole News Dispatch podcast, delivering Christmas and holiday news from the remote news station nestled in the heart of the North Pole. And Ken is on the line with us here from his cabin. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Toby. How are you doing today, man?
I'm excellent, thank you. I'm very excited for Christmas, and I think you just put me in the mood because you've got a very Christmassy and cozy voice, don't you?
Yeah, well, there's some people say that I do. So.
Yeah. So what was it that gave you the original idea to create the North Pole News Dispatch?
Well, let me start by saying this. Whenever I was a kid, I loved Christmas. I could never get enough Christmas. And as I grew older, I discovered that after the holidays was over with, I would get like a post-holiday blues.
Yeah.
I would just get a big letdown January, February, and it took me a while to get over that. So I started listening to Christmas podcasts and found out that they had just a wonderful Christmas community where people would, they talked about Christmas and celebrated Christmas all year long, really. And so I was like, man, I think I could do a Christmas podcast, so I could be more of a part of the community, because at the time I was just chatting online with like-minded people and knew nothing about it. So I got in touch with one of the podcasters, and he was kind enough to help me get started. But I didn't know what subject to talk about, because they pretty much had it covered by the time I got in. There was a lot of other Christmas podcasts, and I was watching the world news one day. And I was like, nobody really reports on Christmas news year round. So I said, that's a good idea. So I ran it by Todd, and he thought that was a good idea, and that's how I got started. That helps me get over the post-holiday blues.
Absolutely. I suppose if you're celebrating Christmas all year round, it's always Christmas. But is Christmas itself, this time of year when it is Christmas for everyone else, extra special?
Yes, it sure is, because there's just, I look forward to that time all year long. And, the rest of the year, it's not full-blown Christmas like it is like November and December.
Yeah.
It's just, a little Christmas here and there. Listen to Christmas jazz during the off season. I don't listen to all the, the nostalgic, songs that you hear during Christmas, during the holidays.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is special because it seems like people are just in more of a festive mood. There's a lot more Christmas parties, a lot more gatherings and festive food. So yeah, the holidays is still a festive time of the year.
And in your podcast, you talk about festive and Christmas news year round. Is there much Christmas news in July?
It starts to pick up a little bit, believe it or not, in July, because we celebrate over here. I'm not sure they're in the UK, but Christmas in July. And I think it's really centered around marketing. They start having July sales for Christmas and everything. But yeah, it's, basically I do one podcast a month, but sometimes if there's something special comes up, I'll do two a month. But the news changes, the Christmas changes during the off season. Instead of being, about having certain towns having a Christmas tree lighting or when their parades start or whatever activities they have going on, it'll be more like reporting on the Christmas tree farms and that kind of thing, just so the news does change a little bit, the Christmas news. But yeah, there's not quite as much. Starting in September, I just get overrun with Christmas news. I just can't report it all.
Yeah, that's true. What are some of the most unusual or unexpected Christmas news stories that you've came across?
There's so many different ones. I'm from the southern part of the United States. The state is Tennessee, so you can tell by my accent. Down here we're more rural area, and people talk slower, move a little bit slower. But so we have a lot of weird traditions down here in the South. And let's see, there's one in Mobile, Alabama that I can remember, that every year they have a thing that's called Elfapalooza. What they do, everybody in the town dons a elf costume, and they try to beat the Guinness's Book of World Records for the most elves in one place.
Oh wow.
So I've never been. It's just crazy that everybody in the town participates in that.
Yeah.
And the current world record, believe it or not, is held by a bunch of students in Thailand.
Oh. That's
where the world record is for the most elves in one spot. But just stuff like that. In Japan, the first world news on Christmas, I report on that too. But
yeah.
In Japan, do y'all have KFC in the UK?
Oh yes, I think it's even bigger here than it is in America.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I live, man, KFC, that's Kentucky Fried Chicken. I live like 20 minutes from the Kentucky border from Tennessee I live up in the mountains up here. But yeah, in Japan, man, they've turned the Kentucky Fried Chicken into a big part of their Christmas dinner. I guess
Wow.
it's just a marketing ploy, but
Yeah.
we don't do that here in the U.S. Not for Christmas anyway. So we do eat a lot of fried chicken though down here in the South.
It's so weird because you wouldn't think of KFC as a Christmas thing. In fact, they haven't done anything with turkey. So I guess it's the last thing you'd imagine being a Christmas tradition.
Well, maybe they can't make as much money off of turkey as they could Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't know, man. I'm not sure the story on that, but I just know that it's a really big thing over there for Christmas.
And are there any challenges that you experience that come with covering Christmas stories?
I guess it would be, Toby, is in the off season finding enough stuff that's people would like to hear about. It does get a little thin, but because of that, man, let me tell you, my podcast is divided into two parts because I'm a creative guy, and my podcast, the first section is the village news, and I report on things that happen there in the North Pole, in the magical North Pole village, and all that is fictional stuff. I get to use my creativeness and my imagination, and I talk about that stuff first, and then I move on to the second portion of the show is the Christmas and festive holiday news portion of the show. That's the real news. But the first part is where I get to use my imagination. I mean, like I have like it's a store there in the North Pole Village called the Candy Cane Train, and that's where they make handmade candy canes. Stuff unusual stuff like raspberry streusel, candy canes, that kind of stuff. And they have a elf couture store there, which is just clothes for an elf. So that there's a lot of stores that I make up there that that are fictional stores, fictional characters. There have Elf Holly there. She has a bakery, and it's called the Jolly Bakery. And Elf Holly stops by from time to time, and her specialty is cakes, pies, and pastries. And she'll bring me some by the studio at the North Pole there, the dispatch station, I call it.
Yeah.
And I'll do a taste test on the air, just to see what it's like. And I get that because if you listen to this podcast, you'll know who I am as a person, because I love to bake and cook, and I'm really bake more than anything.
Yeah.
So the pies and the cakes and the cookies and stuff that I taste test on the air fictionally are from the different elves that bring stuff by the studio, but I'm the one that makes them. So, and a lot of times I make something I've never had before, so it is a true taste test on the air. So.
Oh wow, that's quite good.
So a long answer to your question, it does get a little hard to find Christmas news stories in the off season.
So with you being a big baker, I guess this time of year is a great time for you to showcase all your baking skills to everyone.
Yeah, well, I do that for it starts in Thanksgiving. We have a Thanksgiving over here in the U.S. holiday in November, so it starts before that on Halloween in October. Yeah, so I'll make pies and just randomly drop them off to people. I love making pies and cookies. Molasses sugar cookies is one of my big favorites, and everybody seems to like those. So yeah, I do more baking starting usually in about October.
For the podcast as well, do you find it's quite fun to create the fictional stories in the fictional village and all the characters?
Yeah, man, I sure do. That's honestly, that's the reason I do it.
Yeah.
Because I got to, not only did I realize that there was only so much Christmas news to go around, but I also knew myself, and that, like I said, I'm a creative person, and I would get bored just reporting on, just digging through and finding Christmas news to report on. I knew I would get tired of that, and I wouldn't stay with it, because I used to paint and draw a lot in my younger days. I just kind of got burned out on it, and over the years I've had different creative outlets, and this is the one that I really enjoy right here, because I do get to create those characters and imagination and put my baking and cooking skills to test. So I do love the creative part of it.
And you're quite the storyteller in it, not just fictionally, but true stuff that's happened to you. Like in the most recent one, you talked about when you went to the Centre for Puppetry Arts. So does it happen naturally that you have a very interesting life, or do you deliberately go out and do stuff that would make a good story?
No, I feel like I have to do things, because anybody can think about doing something, can think about going somewhere and taking the action. They can think about taking the action, but to actually go do it and make life more interesting, you have to get out there, man. Life is out there waiting. You just have to get out and enjoy it.
And do you enjoy talking about your own life?
Man, that's everybody likes to talk about themselves.
Yes.
They do. And I guess my life to some people would be boring, but to others, it's like, man, how did you even survive all that? I've had, I've had two lives. I had one life before when I was younger, up to about when I was 25 years old. And I had a whole entire, much better separate life after that. So, if somebody will listen, I'll tell them, but, I don't know if everybody finds it interesting or not.
And in your life, do you have a particularly favorite Christmas memory?
Man, I tell you what, yeah, I do. I have several memories. If we got time, how much time we got here?
Oh, we got plenty of time.
Okay, all right. Yeah, well, they're not too long, but I was born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee, but all my family was from the western part of the state of Tennessee, and in the western part of the state, it's just flat agriculture, farmland there. Everybody lives out in the country there. There are no cities there. so that's where my mom was from, and we would go there for Christmas on Christmas Eve. And my grandmom lived out in this farmhouse, man. It was out in the middle of like cornfields and cotton fields. It was one of those you would see. There was nothing else around. There was another house down the road, but it was like half a mile away. Was the closest thing. But we'd go there, and the house wasn't insulated very well. So in the winter it gets real cold. And my grandmom had those feather beds and old feather beds like they used to have. And we'd get in there and get piled up with covers. It had to have a lot of covers on top, a lot of quilts, blankets to stay warm. And on Christmas Eve, I could always hear sleigh bells outside. Now, I don't know where they were coming from, but in my childhood imagination, I just knew that was Santa. I just knew that was Santa buzzing around and delivering toys. And, I just remember that. That's just a feeling that it just can't be recreated. I think that's part of where part of the love of Christmas comes from for me, is from those memories. And then Christmas Day, we get up and open our presents. And then my mom had a rather large family. There were 7 brothers and sisters. And this is a small farmhouse. It had like 4 rooms in it. And so all her brothers and sisters would come and bring their kids. And I had a lot of cousins. And there would be so many people there that whenever we ate Christmas dinner, dinner on Christmas Day, we would have to eat in shifts. Like all the kids, they would let the kids eat first, and then they'd get up, and then the women would eat, and they would get up, and then the men would eat. There was so much. There was food sitting around everywhere, and my grandma was just a tremendous cook. Just country food. I don't know how to describe that to you, but it's a lot of fried chicken and that kind of stuff.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Well, this was Tennessee Fried Chicken, but it was the same thing, probably. Same thing, yeah. But we had ham and turkey as well. A lot of pies. I think that's where my love for pies, making pies, comes from. But also that was a big memory. And then, when I got a little older and lived in Nashville, we had a Christmas parade. We still do have a Christmas parade. It came within probably 3 blocks of my house, the route of the Christmas parade. And every year, this was after I got married, every year we had this radio flyer red wagon, like you pull behind just a little wagon, you would just like a kid would have. And my wife would make this big, huge pot of chili and parade cookies, that she called them. And we'd make a big pot of hot apple cider, and we'd walk down to the parade. And, most of our neighborhood was there too. So they would all join in, and we'd have just a bowl of chili and cookies and hot apple cider waiting on the parade. Then as a couple years went by, other people started bringing food. So we just had a party waiting for the Christmas parade. That's just a fun memory for me. And I love that.
And how do you think these memories have influenced your approach to the podcast and the storytelling in it?
I guess because, like I said, I'm from the South, and all these, it's a different way of life down here. Just a little slower, a little nicer.
Yeah.
We're a little nicer than some of the people in the big cities, and a little more friendly. I mean, when you drive by up here where I live now, people wave at you, whether you know them or not, But so I think it's influenced my podcast in a way that I want the North Pole News Dispatch, when you come here, that it's a friendly place to come to. There's enough meanness and stress, stressful things out in the world today, everywhere you go, online, just, everywhere. I don't want this to, in any way, shape, or form, have anything to do with that. I want you to come here and it be calm and soothing and slower paced and just a nice place place to be, just like living in the South.
Are there any exciting plans in store for the North Pole News Dispatch in the upcoming year and indeed this Christmas?
Well, this Christmas, I'm going to be doing Christmas readings. I did it last year, but I've got a few things in mind on Christmas Eve. I'll be doing Christmas poems, some Christmas stories. That's what'll be happening on Christmas Eve there. But in the upcoming year, and I'm working on it now because my technology skills are slowly coming around. But
Yeah.
I want to start putting this podcast on YouTube. I still have the audio portion. I want to start doing YouTube just a live actually. So I'm working towards that, and so I think that's the big thing that's coming up for me there.
And how are you personally spending Christmas this year?
This year, let's see. Well, we have a party here at my house. I live in Jamestown, Tennessee. It's a little mountain town, about 2 hours outside of Nashville. And with people that I've met up here, we did it last year, so this will be the second year. We're going to have a Christmas party where everybody just brings food. We have some musicians that show up, just acoustic, just guitar and sing. We did that last year, so we'll kind of get started with that. And then we go to another party. It's called the Burnett Family Farm. It's in Deer Lodge, Tennessee, which is about 45 minutes from here. But it's not a barn like it has horses and cows. I think it probably did at one time.
Yeah.
But it's fixed up really nice. It's like a wedding venue type of barn. Do y'all have those in the UK? You have those over there?
Yeah, there are some wedding venues like that, yeah.
Okay, well, it's like that. And they had a big thing for Halloween, but they really go over the top on decorating on the inside. And you go there and they have a dance floor and plenty of great food and kind of games, games that people play or can if they choose to. But we'll go there. Everybody, you dress up in your finest clothes and go. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And decorated well. And so we'll do that. And then let's see, what else will we be doing? We will be going to, here in Jamestown, we have a Christmas parade. And so it's a daytime Christmas parade. And it's a little different than most. I mean, there's horses in there, horse-drawn carriages, and they're really big on their classic cars up here in this part of the country. So there'll be a lot of classic cars in there. And then after that, we will go to a night parade, because I really like night parades because there's a lot of lights and everything's decorated. It's just more colorful. So we'll go to Cookeville, Tennessee, it's about an hour away. They have a night parade. We'll go there. And then for my actual holiday, we'll be staying here on Christmas Eve. My son will be here. He'll be stopping in to join us. We'll have a lot of food and drink on Christmas Eve. And then Christmas Day, we get up and drive to Nashville to my sister-in-law's house, and all her brothers, my wife's brothers and sisters, come over there and bring their kids, and kind of like we did when I was a kid in West Tennessee. Everybody brings food, we open presents, eat way too much turkey, dressing, pies,
yes,
cakes, the whole 9 yards, eat way more than we should, and get our bellies full, and then we'll just kind of hang out for a while, and then we'll go home, and that'll be that. So that's what I'm doing at Christmas.
Yes, that's quite a lot to fit in, but it sounds very exciting and perfect, actually. So where are we able to find the podcast, the North Pole News Dispatch, and keep up to date with everything you're working on?
Well, you can find it just anywhere you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, those places, and others as well. And I have a Facebook, the North Pole News Dispatch, Facebook and Instagram. You can go on there and just say this: if anybody has anything going on in their community or anything they know about, any events, festive get-togethers, because you can email me at the North Pole News Dispatch at gmail.com and tell me about it, maybe some details or where I can find the details on it, and I'll talk about it on there. I get a lot of my news, I get a lot of the news that way as well.
Brilliant. Well, many thanks for joining us today. It's been great having you here, and have a great Christmas.
Toby, thank you very much. Thanks for the invite, man. This has been exciting for me, and Merry Christmas to you, buddy.